Hello, Cheap Barber here. Today we're discussing my initial thoughts having watched the final season of Power Rangers in this continuity ever. These are my initial thoughts after watching all 10 episodes on Netflix, having premiered on September 29th, 2023. So, and what is my initial thinking of this show? I enjoyed it. For the most part, I enjoyed it. I really liked it. But in terms of my initial reaction to the finale, I was pretty much like, eh, eh, eh. So, Power Rangers Cosmic Fury premiered on Netflix with a 10 episode span, and we'll talk about the pros and we'll talk about the cons. I'm going to talk about the pros first. So, in terms of pros, at a 10 episode span, it cuts out all the fat. The episodes are pretty much all story. There's very little room to really have discussion or interactions in terms of the day-to-day lives of the Rangers. It's all about this connective tissue in terms of an ongoing story, and there's not really any opportunities to just have filler like they used to have in all the other seasons except for this one. So it is a really fast-paced, almost like a micro series or mini series or even a movie when you watch it all together. It goes by very quickly, and when you're taking into account the opening and ending credits, it's probably anywhere between 20 to 22 minutes per episode, if even that. So it is a quick burn throughout the series, so it makes it a very nice afternoon watch. So in terms of a pro, it goes by very fast. Other pros, it's a lot of fun. There is some darker tones to this series. It is not necessarily, I would consider, as darker toned as Once and Always. You're not having necessarily full-scale deaths on screen. That's thick. And there are darker tones in terms of you've got Javi that loses his arm in the first episode. You've got
Lord Zed's doing a full-on scale invasion of the universe, and there are losses of life that are discussed, and aliens being kicked out of their homes. So some pretty interesting undertones, even if majority of the series is just slightly darker than what we've seen before.
It's all just straight story, straight universe building between Lord Zed teaming up with a pretty much a driller that it's Bajillionaire that she owns Squid Inc., this company that has a bunch of drills universally across the universe that she drills to find certain collectibles, artifacts, anything worth money. And she's got a daughter, Squillia. So you got Bajilia and you got Squillia, and Squillia is the daughter, as opposed to what I initially was thinking that they'd be siblings. They are mother and daughter, and it works well. I do think that's fun. But Lord Zed teams up with this Bajillionaire who is providing him the resources in the aspects of having an army of and also kind of like mercenaries that kind of help Lord Zed go throughout the universe and take over.
The suits are okay for the most part. They look better in action than they do kind of in some of the pictures. There's this odd seam on the side that is a bit odd and takes getting used to, but again, they hide the imperfections between the editing, so otherwise it's not an eyesore, and it works for the most part fine for the most of the series.
So another pro I would say about this show is that I do like Ollie having now been kind of taken over by like an evil possession, and works as a second hand to Lord Zed. I think their interactions are really cool. I think Ollie has some of the best lines in the show. I think he does well more so as a villain than he was as kind of sometimes an unlikable hero in the first two seasons. So his interactions with Lord Zed calling him boy, I think were pretty funny, and I thought that was a really cool pro for him to be interacting, being the foil to the Rangers, always thinking one step ahead because he's thinking what the Rangers would do, and even correcting Zed to say, "Oh, no, we shouldn't do it that way. This is the way we got to do it." So I thought that was cool.
The introduction of the Orange Ranger is a nice touch, along with the introduction, for the first time in live action, the Dark Ranger, even though it doesn't come along with any type of comic continuity.
I do like the reintroduction of Billy, kind of making this almost like a legacy to a legacy series, much like you had Dino Thunder with Tommy. So I do like that aspect as well. And I do like the fact that nobody kind of takes control over this season as being the primary focus. You have a lot of Power Ranger seasons that it's like only the Red Ranger is going to be focused on and everyone else is just kind of interchangeable. What I mean to say is that like no character has a set storyline that makes sense to them. In this show, in this season, everybody, it's an ensemble. Everybody is gets their time to shine, except for one in certain aspects. Everyone has a storyline that is particular to their character, that it only would impact them. So it's not like the days of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers where you could just substitute. It could be Adam, it could be Aisha, it could be Rocky, and it didn't matter who it happened to. The episode could play out the same because they're just kind of interchangeable. We'll just dedicate an episode to this person. Doesn't matter what the storyline is, but just to give them focus. This show is very driven by those character-specific interactions, those character-specific developments. So whatever's happening to Amelia makes sense for Amelia, and only that would happen to Amelia, and that would only happen to Ion, and that would happen, etc., etc., to these characters. So I do enjoy that.
So what's the big con here? It has to do with the finale. While aptly named The End, it doesn't represent the end of this series of 30 years, but more a ending to Dino Fury, which it's perfectly fine as a series ender for those 3 seasons, but not as the continuity as a whole. A mostly nerfed throughout the entire season, Zato ascends to a Morphin Master at the ending, and there's also a brief reintroduction of Zordon through the proxy of Zato, but otherwise you don't see much of Zordon. There's not much of a wrap-up of the continuity as a whole. Again, it is just mainly about the Dino Fury characters, along with some harkens back to the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, but otherwise those looking for more than that are going to be left out in the cold. The finale that's light on the action is about outthinking and outsmarting the villain as opposed to overpowering the villain. So there's not much in terms of big action set pieces in the finale other than a short CG sequence. So once again, this is more of a introspective look at the show as opposed to it being a grand, big action piece finale. So what's my takeaway from this show? This was something that was very important to me throughout my life. 30 plus years of dedication, on and off, because some shows are better than others. But this is a show that became a fad very quickly. And then that fad went away and the show kind of sustained itself based on the fan interest, along with some very dedicated showrunners and production behind the scenes, along with some very dedicated actors like Jason David Frank that acted as a brand ambassador for the series and kept it alive. So I take that in terms of what it meant to fans, what it meant to the genre as a whole. And I take that with me in terms of ending this continuity and moving on to what is next, which hopefully this won't be the end overall, and I don't think it will be. I think it'll show up a couple of years from now, just completely different from what it was before. So like and subscribe, guys, and I'll leave you guys until next time.